than you ever had before was to mess up. Now, I'm not going to go into the psychology of that, but why is that, right? It's totally different than being a hired hand. It's a standing, it's a status, and it's secure. I've shared before that Pastor Lloyd Jones, a British minister, he had this pastoral question that he would ask of people. It was kind of to see where they were at. And he would ask them, right now, are you a Christian? Right now, are you a child of God? And if the person said, as they often did, well, I'm trying, then he knew that here was a person who doesn't know what it means to be a Christian at all. Here's a person who wants to be a hired man or a hired woman and doesn't understand the deep security that having sonship conferred upon you actually means. Now, if you grasp that you're a son, it also gives you this intimate access. Sinclair Ferguson has this book, Children of the Living God, Delighting in the Father's Love, and he tells a story about a missionary who adopted a poor young orphan girl into their family. And amongst other details, even though that she knew that she was legally adopted into the family, and he was legally her father, she was still pretty standoffish. And one day he was at his desk, and she came up to him with her shoe, and she said to him, "Daddy, I need a new shoelace." And he writes, it just melted in this man's heart because she was treating him like a father. You know what that means, right? A child has access to the great heights, so to speak, of the Father. Even if my wife, even if Ella, if she's not sick, if she were to roll over at 2 a.m. and say to me, "I need a glass of water," I might be tempted to say, "Well, you know where the kitchen is, you know where the cups are, go get it yourself." Right? And this is my spouse, right? But if one of my children, especially when they were little, would come to me in the middle of the night and say, "Dad, I need a glass of water," what do? You get out of bed. Why? It's your child, right? Nobody else can get through quite that way. It's this access. Right? You go to him for your shoelaces. But sonship also means a future hope. What does the Bible mean when it talks about us as heirs? It means that the new heaven and the new earth that God is developing, in that somehow we are going to reign with him. Now, remember, in ancient times, fathers expected oldest sons especially to kind of take over the family business. Well, what's that mean for us? Right? God is in the business of, in some ways, perfecting the world, right? Some days it's going to be perfectly glorious again. New heavens, a new earth. No suffering, no blemishes, no stains, nothing. And God's saying to us, this is your inheritance. Now, we live today in a bit of a scary economic time. Nobody knows about the future, right? You look at the value of the dollar or the price of oil or pipelines and LNG products. Look at your career or the fact that it's the end of the semester this week. You think about your kids or your RSPs or your pension. Wouldn't it be nice to know that not too far in the future, no matter what happens to you right now, no matter what mistakes you make, no matter what financial decisions you make, that somehow not too far into the future, there's an enormous inheritance of wealth coming to you. Wouldn't that be quite something? Wouldn't that make everything different? You'd get up in the morning and you go, "Hey, look, the stock market, it's down 1,000 points. Oh well. Right? Because of this inheritance that's coming. Right? And it's true. And do we realize that? Paul says it, "I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us as the sons of God." Now, no human being can kind of inject their DNA into an adopted child, right? but God can, because he has this person of the Trinity, namely the Holy Spirit. And we're told that on the last day of history, God's DNA, somehow the Holy Spirit is going to come into us, and we're going to become fully who God intended us to be. And the entire human family resembling the triune God, all of his love and his greatness and his goodness and his nobility and his majesty and his love, his grace. And it'll be completely realized in our lives, and we will become completely ourselves. And somehow we're going to rule and reign in the new heaven and the new earth, and that's coming. And Paul says, when I'm in the middle of my suffering, I think of my glorious inheritance as God's Son. I think about that inheritance, and I can handle anything now. Now, this next song that we're going to sing, it doesn't use specifically necessarily the language of sonship, but I invite you to consider that Jesus is calling you to respond to this invitation to be his children. Right? Despite our wandering ways, that the Father calls us to come home to be with him, and all the security and all the access and all the hope that guarantees. So if you if you're able to hold on to that fact that you are sons of God, so that you have this deep security and this access and this confidence about the future, what does that then mean for today? Often when the Bible talks about how the heirs of God should live, it talks about brotherly love. And unfortunately in English, brotherly love is it's a bit nebulous, right? It's hard to, it's kind of vague. But the ancient pagans understood this. I mean, if we are brothers and sisters, then this has some incredibly radical implications. Because we're not just kind of somehow members of some religious organization. Brothers and sisters are totally different. This fellow named Lucian I thought I was going to butcher his name, Osomatsu. He was a pagan critic of the early church, and he writes this: their founder, Jesus Christ, persuaded them that they should be like brothers to one another. And therefore they despise all things equally and view all their possessions as common property. And you get a sense that he knew just how radical this brother-sister thing is. Right? That you have no privacy, that the brothers and sisters have incredible claims on you. And the pagans knew that the Christian community was marked by brotherly love, by true sonship, and it should be the most radical thing ever. And do we know this? I'm not always sure that we do. So this parable has wide-reaching implications, right? If we're brothers and sisters, it means commitment. It means unconditional commitment. The siblings that you have, you didn't choose, did you? And some of you are maybe shaking your head saying no, because just because you have the same parents, it results in having the siblings that you do. They kind of come together as part of the package. And in fact, many of us have siblings that we wouldn't choose in a million years as friends, not at all. But there still is this bond of having the same parents, of enduring the same ordeal of being raised by the same parents, right? There's this bond even though they may be very different from you. People choose church fellowships all the time, right? If you move to Terrace or you move to a different city, you might choose a church. But once you're part of a church, you don't get to choose your brothers and sisters, right? You don't get to avoid people you don't like. They're your brothers and sisters. And the church isn't kind of an organization for the purpose of networking. It's not a religious organization either. And so there are people here that are your brothers and sisters who you would not have chosen to be your friends, just like real brothers and sisters. And they've maybe been able to say things to you or done things in your life that maybe nobody else can, just like brothers and sisters can. And you can't really, inside of the church, kind of live by a motto like, well, birds of a feather flock together. You can't just choose the people that are more like you or who will kind of help your recreational life or help your career and kind of hang out with them only in the church. Brotherly love is an unconditional commitment. That's an important aspect. Now, this is the second one is transparency, and just briefly on this, I'm kind of going to skip over that, although maybe that's not that transparent. Basically, people know you. Brothers and sisters know you so well, and so do, and so can, and so ought brothers and sisters within the church. And I just want to focus on the last one, which is what got Lucian so upset. Right? If we're brothers and sisters, that means we have a claim on each other, and in particular on each other's resources. Right? And well, maybe this is hard to think about a family, right? That's how it is in a family, right? Inside a family, let's say somebody has a financial problem, the other people feel an obligation that you ordinarily wouldn't. It's just the way it works, because you're family, right? And Lucian was kind of upset about this. He noted that real brothers and sisters surrender their privacy and view all their possessions somehow as common property. Now, do you think right now that outside of this room, that others in the city of Terrace look at the Christian Reformed Church and think that about us? I mean, does anybody out there, so to speak, look at us and